and so she came in the next day and I went to talk to her.
Good evening, everyone. Before we start the meeting, I'd just like to extend a warm welcome to our new bylaw officer, Bud Alcock. Bud, welcome, Bud.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad. Good evening. And I'll be seeing you soon.
Looking forward to it.
It's been a great week so far. Thank you.
Has it?
Yes.
Good experiences?
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
With that, get to work.
I will. Bye now.
Take care, Bud.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, Bud.
See you, Bud.
I have another announcement to make. It's regarding our Chief Financial Officer, Roxanne Shepherd. She has been with the City of Grand Forks as Chief Financial Officer since the fall of 2012. And we're extremely fortunate to have had the privilege of having her on our team. Staff tell me that Roxanne is one of the reasons they love coming to work. She brings humor in sometimes stressful environment. We have all learned an immense amount from Roxanne, particularly throughout the budget presentations, and I personally want to thank her for her patience and integrity that she brings to work here at the city every day. We're going to miss your great laugh, and we wish you well in your future, Roxanne. So on behalf of council and staff, I would like to present you with this token of appreciation for all your hard work. Come on up, Roxanne.
Oh, wow. With the picture of the mayor.
No, it's not. I wouldn't accept it if it was.
Wow, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Roxanne.
We're going to miss you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to
All the
miss
best.
If you're feeling that bad, yes. We'll give you permission to go home. And you'll be sick at home. And keep you sick
Miss it for a minute. Just like the one at City Hall.
Now moving on with the business aspect, I'd like to call this meeting of regular meeting of council Monday, July the 18th to order. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda for the July 18th regular meeting as presented? Councillor Thompson, may I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hammond. All in favor? So carried. May I have a motion to adopt the June 13th Committee of the Whole meeting minutes as amended? Councillor Butler, Councillor Hammond. Discussion. All in favor? So carried. Furthermore, may I have a motion to adopt the June 27th special meeting to go in camera minutes as presented? May I have a move, please? Councillor Hammond. Seconder. Councillor Krog. All in favor? So carried. May I have a motion to adopt the June 27th regular meeting minutes as presented? Council.
One correction. I'm just going to find my note. Sorry. Okay, page.
Where are we?
On regular meeting minutes.
Regular meeting
For June
minutes.
27th?
Yeah,
Yes.
on page 28 on our agenda. And I believe that the Code of Conduct policy, speaking through the mayor, sanctions and censor meetings, and I think censor should be C-E-N-S-O-R.
You're on page 28.
Yes, at the bottom.
C.
Yeah, page 8 of 9, yeah, under C.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it'd be a C.
Yeah.
Okay, other than that housekeeping, is that it, Councillor Thompson?
Yes, that was mainly.
So may I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hammett, seconder. Discussion. Councillor Tripp, you have a...
Oh, no, sorry, I was...
Okay.
I thought
All
I
in
was-
favor? So carried.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Things moved a bit quick for me here. I did have a little problem, and I don't know if it really matters that much, but this motion on June 13th, no, I wasn't there. I wouldn't make a motion like that. So it's not an accurate motion. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not, I wouldn't make a motion like that because it contradicts, it's on page
you're talking about the
4.
Ilma one? Are you talking about the
The
Ilma?
Ilma one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on page 8 of our agenda package.
I'm sorry, I was a little slow to the mark.
We did discuss that previously, which is why these minutes were brought back again with an amendment, because I wasn't comfortable with that either.
Yeah, and it's still not accurate, but I mean, if we're okay with it, it's just that it's not, I would never ask, it doesn't even make sense, so, does it matter?
I thought
If
we
I
had
didn't
just,
hear, I would have, I'm sorry, I meant to interfere here earlier, but,
I thought it would be good that we just received it for discussion, for information. That was, I think what your motion was to just receive for information purposes.
It wasn't a motion, it was just received
oh, okay,
information.
what?
Received that the committee of the whole receives a presentation from interior lumber manufacturers for discussion.
Yeah, and that's all I said.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
That was done. That was it. All I did was I just received for information, that's all I said.
But I think it could have been, if I may, in the agenda, the recommended or suggested resolution, and that could be what our recording secretary did. Just receive for discussion, and then she just added
Right, or added the rest of the motion that was there.
Yeah, that was recommended on the agenda.
Yeah, but I never would have said we were going to discuss the request. So it was basically, I just, received information. That was
Okay,
it.
okay.
So,
So we've adopted those. Now do we need to back up to that and unadopt them?
Because the way this looks now, they could come back to us and said, did you discuss it, and are you going to consider our resolution? Anyway, it's, I don't want to consider, I
So
never
that-
wanted to consider the
okay, so
resolution.
in that case, let's just bring it back to the table.
Can we please?
Yeah, all right. All right, in reference to Committee of the Whole, June 13th.
Resolved that the Council of the Whole receives a presentation from ILMA. That's it.
Correct, corporate officer.
Mayor Conrad, I believe we need to rescind the resolution that was just passed that you,
Well, I would make a motion
adopt
Yeah.
to
the minutes.
reconsider.
Yes,
the
exactly.
previous motion.
So we need to rescind that one, and then we can
So that's
forward.
bring it back to the table and make a motion to rescind
Be-
the adoption.
Well, it's also going to be changed again,
Yes.
I believe.
Okay, so may I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Thompson, seconded. Councillor Ross. All right, all in favor? So carried. So now, the motion to adopt the corrections to the Committee of the Whole. Because we just rescinded them.
So I think what we need is a motion to amend the minutes
Yeah.
From the June 13th Committee of the Whole meeting to read that resolved that the Committee of the Whole receives the presentation from Interior Lumber.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, do I have a second? Councillor Ross. So, all in favor? So carried.
And then just a point of order, we just voted on the amendment, now we have to vote on the amended minutes.
Sorry. So,
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
thank you. Second, Councillor Ross. So, all in favor? So carried. All right.
So fastest isn't best is what I'm saying.
Did we get through the other one? Question was called for the 27th. The
Yes.
documents?
Yes.
Okay, so we're moving on to the unfinished business portion now. Okay, the subject matter is the memo regarding staff to provide a report on the past Recreation and Culture Committee. The recommendation is council receives the memo for information from the acting corporate officer regarding that staff provide a report on the past Recreation and Culture Committee. May I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Butler. Seconder, Councillor Hammond. Any discussion, Councillor Butler?
Yeah, so I just want to thank staff for taking a look through previous minutes and deciding that we have no baseline to go with. So what I've done is contacted the Rec Commission, and I think maybe what would be best here to save staff time is for the Rec Commission to come forward as a delegation and present to council what their intent was, what their ideal for this committee would look like, set some terms of reference to see if council is agreeable to those terms of reference. It wouldn't involve any work then on the part of council. And I just know from what Councillor Hammond and I heard when we went to the high school and heard the students there talk that one of their main priorities for what they liked or wanted to see in Grand Forks was more recreational opportunities, more events for them to participate in, and how they felt that that actually kept them away from alcohol and drugs was these opportunities to participate in other things. So I know at that time I had discussed with the students there if they would be willing to help out with this committee in any way. I think it would be great to get them involved as well. So hopefully the Rec Commission doesn't have a meeting, I don't think, before our next meeting of council. But we'll try and get that brought forward as soon as possible as a delegation so council can get some more information on what we're looking for.
Councillor Ross.
The only thing I question is whether or not recreation and culture actually go together. Normally it's arts and culture. And we could have more recreation in town, but the focus on culture is, I think, quite different to hardcore recreation. And so I would say it's arts and culture. Yeah. That's normally the two that go together.
Yeah.
Councillor Butler.
That term was only used because that's what was in the Rec Commission's mandate, that I was the representative from that committee that was supposedly here. So, the name can be changed to whatever we feel is appropriate.
Okay. All in favor of the question? Anyone opposed? So carried. Moving on to our Manager of Development Engineering Services, the subject matter is a memo update regarding the application for a development permit application to subdivide industrial property located at 7920 Donaldson Drive. And the recommendation is to receive the memo update from Manager of Development Engineering Services regarding the application for a development permit to subdivide industrial property located at 7920 Donaldson Drive. May I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Hammond. Seconder, Councillor Butler. Any discussion? All in favor? So carried. Okay. Now move on to the subject matter of written reports from council. May I have a motion to receive all the written reports from council as presented? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hammond. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if you give me a few minutes, I just wanted to talk about a few things. I have two notice of motions that I'd like to present this evening, and I have a couple of brief issues regarding downtown business. Okay. So the Downtown Business Association, which wanted to come to committee of the whole this morning, wanted to talk about three very quick things in time for the tourist season. One is that there's an opportunity on Central Avenue to hang a banner. There's only one location on Central Avenue for a banner, and they wanted to know if it would be permissible to put up a banner across the highway when it's not in use for other events, directing people to the downtown core so that people could see where the downtown area is. That's one. The other is RV parking directional signs so that people on the highway can see which roads to turn down to easily access RV parking opportunities. And the other is an issue regarding a solution to downtown parking and in regards to staff and business owners parking in what should be the customers' street parking availability, whether it's a letter that's drafted and taken around. Business owners have contacted some of the offenders. Mr. Copan has actually gone in and spoken to some of the offenders, and they've been, in some cases, received with abuse and threats. So I don't know what the solution is. I hate to see us having to enact a bylaw to enforce it or have to have somebody chalking tires, because that just doesn't make sense. I think we should be able to self-police, but I just wanted to bring it on the radar and let the council know that it is an issue. And if there's anything that we can do, perhaps we can come up with a solution. And perhaps Mr. Alcock could, if we drafted a letter advising the store owners, particularly on Market Avenue, what they're losing in a day in revenue, what their potential earnings loss is because of this. And perhaps Mr. Alcock could go and meet these business owners, introduce himself, and present them with a letter and leave it at that, and then see how that works. It's an idea. The other thing I wanted to talk about too was one of our business owners recently, within the past 2 weeks, and it was very sad, who brought a dog into work every day. I went in to see her one day and she wasn't there. Apparently her dog had died. I'd been playing with it 2 days earlier when I'd been in there. And I went back in to see her the next day and gave my sympathies about her dog. I said I didn't realize it was that old. And she said it wasn't. It was only 4 years old. And she walked it every day, several times a day, in the alleyway between 2nd and Riverside Drive. And it was poisoned. So whether it was rat poison, pesticides, or whether it was a drug from just needles, a syringe. I don't know, she was waiting for blood results to come back, but a couple of days later I noticed a business owner out in the back of their property in the back lane with a bottle of pesticide, herbicide Roundup spraying. And so I know that the city doesn't use pesticides, but it doesn't prohibit, there's no law against private individuals using pesticides, but they do have a mandatory 7-day signage notice that they have to put up. And I just feel so terrible. I can't stop thinking about this poor dog because it was the cutest little thing. And it could have been a child. So I think maybe if we can send out a reminder notice, because it's summertime, maybe send out a reminder notice about pesticides and the use of and what's mandatory as far as signage, along with a reminder on sprinkling regulations. And perhaps that can go out with the hydro, with our hydro notices. Maybe put it up on the city website, on our Facebook page. But I think that people need to be aware that there is a potential that it's either rat poison or it's a pesticide or a drug. And in either case, you don't want it happening again. You don't want a child finding that. So I don't know what can be done, but I just want to bring that to staff's attention. I have 2 notices of motion. I would like to make a notice of motion to council to start thinking now about development opportunities along Riverside Drive. Whispers of Hope and Beth's have more than 2 years left on their lease. And I think it would be a good time for us to start planning on how we envision the future of that waterfront and perhaps come up with some concepts and some ideas. So I think this is something that we should be starting to talk about. And I thought about this more this afternoon, and I thought this morning when the CAO presented his business plan, I was thinking about it and I thought, you know what would be really a good idea is to have a council's business plan. I know we have our strategic plan, but realistically I think what we need to do is put together a business plan, take some of these things off the strategic plan of what we realistically think we can achieve in the balance of our term and what do we want to see come to fruition. We can talk about what we've achieved already to date and where we want to go in the next 2 years. And that way we have a focus as a council on issues that we want to, because right now they're floating there in our strategic policy and we haven't really sunk our teeth into any projects that I think that we want to and so that we have direction and guidance on where we're going. And then we can assist staff and our CAO on where we'd like to focus our direction. So I would like council to consider, I want to put that motion forward that council put together its own business plan of achievable accomplishments in the balance of our term.
So we have a notice of motion.
That's the one.
Notice. The other one was the Riverside Drive.
Okay.
So you first have a notice of motion.
What exactly was that? Like,
Yeah.
Well, we own that property with the exception of that one house, and we own the property that Whispers of Hope and Beth's is on. Their lease is up in 2 years. We need to look at how do we see that riverfront in the future? Right now, it's not accessible to the community. It's cut off from the community. And I know that we need to find another location for Whispers, at least that's my own personal opinion, because we need to give that community land back to the community. Right now, they can't access it. It's not safe. So I would like us to sit down and put our heads together. I have my own vision of what I see down there. I'm sure councillors have their own visions, and come up with a plan on how we want to address this when this lease is up, and give the Whispers people heads up so that they could prepare what they're going to be doing.
I would recommend that we set up a task force for this, form of a committee or a task force to look into this, just like we did with the transitional housing, which was discussed. It's for council to embark on this directly.
Council's not going, I'm not suggesting that we look at where we're going to locate Whispers of Hope. I'm suggesting that we, as a council, consider what we would like to vision on that waterfront.
But unless we do one, we can't really be embarking on the second one. We have to start looking at a proposal or a task force committee to see what we're going to do.
That could be something separate, because that's a separate entity. Where Whispers and Beth's goes is separate from what we vision for the river.
I understand, but until we do the first, we can't really start visualizing what we're going to be doing with the present property, aside from almost sending a message out there that we are getting them out of there, which is not, I believe, this time appropriate to start thinking on those lines.
Well, they came to us at the Committee of the Whole a couple of months ago asking us to consider renewing their lease now early for another 5 years, so that, because they want to invest money into that building. That building needs a new roof, and I know that I'm not going to vote to put any more money into that building.
But I think we're sending the wrong message out there. We're already trying to find what we're going to be doing with the property prior to at least looking at an option for where.
Right, but they know that their lease is expiring.
Oh, you're aware of
They
that.
have a date.
Okay. We're having a discussion on what here. We don't have any motion or anything, so I mean, no, we're
I
not.
just have a comment there.
Yeah, we do have a motion.
It's a
to
noticeable
receive
notice.
Notice of motion, but
reports. So there is a motion on that. table and there's discussion about it.
Okay. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I hear what Councillor Hammond is saying, and I appreciate the concerns that she has. What I would like to suggest is that Council have a meeting with the Board of the Whispers of Hope to discuss that we are not looking favorably on renewing their lease for another 5 years, and to give them an opportunity to think about where they want to relocate. It's not just Whispers, it's Beth's as well. So we need representation from both boards, and just to just do this without having their input, I think doesn't send the message
No,
I would like to send.
I agree. I think we should have a meeting with them.
Yeah,
I think
that's
we
why
should let
we
them
have to
know
have a first step.
what our intentions are, but that doesn't prevent us from creating a vision of where we want to see that end up.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here by doing that. It might send the wrong message out.
So
Councillor Butler?
I just wanted to make a suggestion. This is, I think, the point of a notice of motion is now it's on everybody's radar. We can go home, think about this, discuss it. I mean, I'd love to go for coffee with you and chat about it. I think you've got some great ideas. And then, so when we come back next time and we have the notice of motion, then we can really talk about it with an informed perspective because we've done our homework on it.
Councillor Tripp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I could just add, I was just going to say exactly what Christine was saying there, to have a meeting with them, but I am aware that there are some things moving on their end, and I think they'd be very happy to get into a dialogue at this point and discuss some things that they're looking at from their end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at least we're giving that recognition to them. All right. Councillor Carter?
Are we done with that one?
I think so.
Okay, I have a small verbal. Can't be written because it happened after the deadline. Just a couple of little things. Saturday and Sunday in our community, we had the Ultimate Frisbee Championship. There was about 70 plus people in attendance. I think there was 53 players from all over BC. 80% are estimated to be from out of town, so Maple Ridge, Kelowna, all that stuff. So it looked pretty hardcore. I was gonna run out there and stuff like that. But it was hopefully a first annual, and it'll just keep getting bigger and bigger. They did estimate they might even have 100 players, but because it was the first one, they didn't. So that's another event coming to Grand Forks. And I also attended the drive-in theater that was up at Angus McDonald, or next to Angus McDonald. It was awesome. There's a great showing of antique cars all lined up for the drive-in and stuff like that. There was a few glitches, technical glitches, as far as getting it up onto the screen and stuff like that. And then we had some sprinklers go off, and one guy seemed pretty frantic because most people's windows were down. I just figured, it's hammering the side of my car. Every now and then you turn on the wipers. It wasn't. But the sprinklers were for the park. So they said, people were saying, well, why didn't they ask the city to shut the sprinklers off? But that part doesn't have sprinklers. It's just the sprinklers and Angus McDonald, instead of at the fence line, instead of just going to here, were coming around, right? So the city probably wouldn't even know that was happening until it happened. But it was kind of cool and pretty good for a premier event. I'm pretty sure it'll just get better. That's it.
Okay. So may I have a motion to receive? Oh, we already got that motion.
Yeah.
I'm going to call the question. All in favor? So carried.
Your worship, I do have a notice of motion in my report.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have it. Okay, I feel that there.
Yes, the resolution that I've given notice for and I'd like to put on the table tonight is resolved that the Chief Administrative Officer be requested to review the requirements for the upgrade to 22nd Street with a view of bringing it forward into the 2016 capital expenditure budget and to provide a report to Council at the August 15th, 2016 meeting.
Oh, sorry, so you're putting that on the table?
I make that motion.
Oh, so it's not
It's not a notice, it's a motion.
Not a notice.
Is it a
notice of motion?
Well,
It's a motion.
I included it in my
Didn't
report. So
As
is
the
that not-
notice.
It's a notice.
And I
And
don't
this
bring-
is the motion.
And this is the
And
I'm
this is the
just
motion.
trying to figure out
Yeah.
where we are.
Yeah. Councillor Butler.
Oh, sorry.
I'm trying to remember where I read it, but I know when I've been doing my reports, I've been doing notices of motion because I saw that somewhere in our procedure bylaw or somewhere that
Yeah.
first we're supposed to bring forward the notice of motion so the council can consider it, and then the next meeting you bring forward the motion. I'm perfectly happy to discuss the issue tonight, but I'm just not sure if that is our policy, if we need to stick to that. So I guess my question then would be to our CAO, is that council policy that we need to bring forward a notice of motion first and then at the next meeting bring it back as an official motion?
Mr. Mayor, without the procedure bylaw in front of me, I would have to have a few minutes to review the procedure bylaw before I could comment on that. And I can search through it, but I think it's still the prerogative of council and the policy is if you have an expenditure, you want to introduce it first into the form of a report. So the councillor is correct and Councillor Thompson is correct in the process of introducing it to council through that process. So if council wanted to consider it, it would be at the pleasure of council to determine that. So I would, again, I would say this at the pleasure of council.
Any second?
So do you want to put the motion forward or notice of motion?
Yeah, I do want to put the motion on the
Okay.
table.
Has it been seconded for discussion?
Not yet?
I'll second.
Okay, Councillor Hammond, seconded. So now, discussion.
I'm sure I saw it on the financial statement that was prepared for us earlier, but I can't remember, and I don't know where it is right now. But do we know the cost?
Well, no, this is,
Yeah, that's the,
if I might respond to that, Mr. Mayor, that's why I'm asking for the CAO to bring a report back, because I think what's included in the budget is a lot more. It's all of the utilities and everything else. And somewhere I saw it scheduled for the 2017 financial plan. If we wanted to look at risks and what we're willing to take, because I know that they were. I got the word that, would you want to be in an ambulance driving up and down 22nd Street? I mean, if you weren't injured before, you might be when you arrived. So, it's
Identify ambulance.
yeah.
Good way to be resuscitated.
Get your heart going.
Mr. Mayor, in response to the amount to do the asphalt replacement is at a Class D cost estimate is $350,000 as outlined in the 20-year capital plan for the council. So that would be the rough cost estimate. Procedure bylaw wise, I will still look into that, and I'll if council would like, I can get back to you shortly as I review it.
Was that just the paving?
It's just the
Just the paving.
Just the paving.
Just the paving. Very similar to what we did with 68th Street. We reviewed and we decided through council decided to take a little bit more risk rather than doing full multi-utility because the funding for that to come in is less likely than through the grant process because you are battling with all of the other communities in British Columbia and if it should be working across Canada for stimulus funding. Council does have the ability to take that risk, and it's not uncommon to take that risk based on condition assessment, so we could go in and do an exploratory analysis of the pipe to determine if it is in a condition where we could take that risk. Then we talk about that risk, we talk about exceeding the life expectancy of asphalt. So when I talk to council about this, or we talk about it as a management team, we say, is it likely that we will see another 30 to 40 years of life expectancy in the infrastructure below the ground? The engineers have talked about the deficiencies in water flow on that pipe. I can let council know that those deficiencies already exist. There's a hospital already there and it's existing. It prohibits future development. But if you go down 22nd Street, you'll see there's a wider corridor and there's opportunities for, a water main to be put in or a sewer main to be put in on the gravel section of that. You could realign it. But again, that would be the decision of council, and I could provide that report at the next meeting of council. Should the procedure bylaw allow for it if council want to. But I mean, again, your procedure bylaw is for council to make the determination on if you're going to do it or not.
Councilor Butler.
So on our 2015 carry forward projects, it is listed as number 11. So it was our intent to do this, I believe, as soon as we received a grant for the project. I'm just wondering, at this point in the year, have we been denied that grant? Because if we have been, I can see Councillor Thompson's point in wanting to maybe look into proceeding with just the paving of the street. But I'd like to know if that grant opportunity has already passed.
Mr. Mayor, the grant applications that we have in right now are with the Building Canada Fund for the well number 2 replacement. There has been no offering of a grant from the provincial government or the federal government in relation to additional projects that would have this type of priority. Water and sewer were the key priorities. Multi-utilities are good practice for local governments. We've applied for a grant that we were not successful under for the 3rd Street and 22nd Street combined as multi-utility projects, and we have not we were not successful in that grant. Okay. So the timing for this request would allow us to consider, it is generally affected by the cost of oil for paving. So we would go back and if council wants to do that, we would provide the report. We could do a request for a quotation and then see what we get back and bring it back to council if that was the process. Now, last minute, you may pay a little bit more of a premium, but it would be up to council to look at it. So I could bring back a report should council want that, outlining what the expectations and what it would look like.
Councillor Thompson.
Well, if the procedure by doesn't permit that, could it not come up under new business?
Yeah, I think it's fine. All right, so we have a motion on the table. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. The next item is the verbal report from council's representative, the RDKB, which is myself. There were no meetings during the timeline, so I have no report on that, but I would like to give an update that last Saturday I was invited by the Honourable Michelle Stilwell, Minister of Social Development and Social Innovation, and I was accompanied by Linda Larson in Greenwood for the announcement of a new community employer partnership project at the Founders Day Parade, which was a very interesting grant and large attendance, very well run event, 75 vendors. So for those of you that attended it, it's nice. For those of you that didn't, you missed a nice event. It's beautiful. And I think I would like to ask our CAO, do we have anything out there on that community employer partnership project grant?
No, Mr. Mayor, at this point, no, we don't. From our perspective right now, we have the Rural Dividend Fund. We have a grant application out there with the Building Canada Fund, and I don't believe we have a grant out there.
Because I was encouraged by our MLA, Linda Larson, to bring this back to the city to discuss it, especially if we're looking in the erection of tiny homes. I discussed it with her, and it was quite the nice project.
Can you turn your microphone on there so that's...
It was quite the interesting project. They built 3 little, I call them tiny homes, at Lions Park, and they're going to be actually named as the bar, the jail, and they're being used for future events. It was done by, I believe, 2 or 3 individuals that built them indoors and then brought them over to the park.
Well, it must be small if they go through the door.
Pardon me?
They must
Some
be
of us,
small
our
if they
hands
go
are
through
so
the
big we
doors.
can't get them through the door. That's another story. But no, they built them at the arena.
Well,
So, but very, very interesting. So, might be something to consider for future for ourselves. If we're thinking of embarking on because my thoughts were tiny homes, and Linda Larson immediately said, that's a great idea. You can apply it to that. So I'm looking to get more details from Greenwood, and I will present it at a later date to see where the City of Grand Forks can go with this. So that's all I have. So I have a motion to receive.
Everybody?
Okay, all right. Let's narrow it down. Councillor Butler and Councillor Thompson. All in favor? So carried. Moving on now to recommendations from staff. Subject matter topics for ministers' meetings at the UBCM. The recommendation is that council direct staff to set up meetings at UBCM with ministers to discuss 4 topics of importance as identified by council. And further, council directs staff to prepare briefing notes for the appropriate minister in advance of UBCM. May I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Hammett. Councillor Thompson. Discussion, Councillor Hammett.
I know I put a resolution forward that went to the AKBLG and was defeated, but I'm not giving up. I'm going to be persistent on this, and in reference to the Gilpin Grasslands Provincial Park. And the management plan clearly states that the provincial government, the Department of Parks, Ministry of Parks, will communicate with the City of Grand Forks on the management of the Gilpin Grasslands Provincial Park. They purchased that land to protect it and the red and blue listed species, and they haven't done anything to protect it. Also, Nature's Trust. And I would like to see the provincial government at least adhere to their own standards and their own recommendations within their own management guidelines. We have a field trip coming up on Thursday to Lost Lake, where it's been re-fenced again to keep the cattle out. But the cattle are grazing right through Nature's Trust and through the provincial Grasslands Park, and they're eroding the park. They're eating the food stocks, and as I mentioned before, when they put a test fence up last year, they put a fence around 6 acres of I don't know how many hundreds of acres of the Nature's Trust. They had permission to do that, and I went up and I photographed the vegetation inside the fence and outside the fence. And within less than 2 weeks, there was a clear difference. Outside the fence had anything growing was just sticks coming out of the ground, and on inside was all lush. And that was food source for the deer and ungulates and bear, because there was berries as well. So we're never going to solve our problem if we don't fix nature's problem and at least protect the land that was purchased for that purpose. It was purchased to protect, and it's not being done. So I would like to, I don't know which department, which ministry to deal with. I know Barry's been banging his head for 35 years on this issue, and we've taken up the torch on this to carry on, and I'm just going to keep talking to whoever will listen, but I think that needs to come back.
Would Memo not be the ministry for parks?
Ministry of Forest, Lands, Natural
Resources.
and cows.
Yeah, and cows. And cows.
It is federal. Yes. Councillor Crowe.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was interest on our part, if we do get to see Premier Clark, to bring up the concerns raised by a Vancouver councillor based on the Saskatchewan Social Services Minister, Donna Harper, I think her name is, and the policy which allowed them to put a couple of homeless people in a bus and send them to Vancouver. They did a review, they did a report. She's defending her position and that type of thing, and I would like to see it coordinated, because in the report they said that you can do it if you're sending them to family, right, or a job. It would make sense to use government money. Her thing is everybody has a right to be mobile, which is fine, but it's government paid for, and it's costing us, because they didn't mention it in the report, but the one gentleman's family is in Victoria, but he basically got dumped in Vancouver. The other person had no relatives, no job, nothing. A person offered, when it came out on Global BC, a person offered him a job, and he took the job and then disappeared. Nobody can find him or whatever. So it's also in that report that Alberta and Manitoba have similar policies. So I would wonder if we'd be interested in having the Premier look at it and coordinating anything like this in the future. Because if it's just as easy as just giving people bus tickets to go to other places, that's been done in our province years ago. There are certain areas of the province and in the country and in the states that they were shipping people to, right? So, yeah, is there, at the table, is there interest in talking to Premier Clark about it?
Well, I would like to talk to you. I want to see the report.
Okay, it's online.
Yeah, I was just looking at the benefits and impacts recommendation from staff here, and it says generating awareness around issues of importance to the city of Grand Forks. And although I agree with you, it is an issue for Vancouver, but it's not. I mean, we do have a lot of transient people coming through here because of our weather, and they're heading to the coast for winter.
Yeah.
But I think the homelessness and housing issue would be more relevant to what we've been dealing with here at Council for the last year and a half, and also considering that the federal government has, on June 26th, the CBC reported that they've just invested $150 million for affordable housing in BC. I'd like to see us maybe talk to the minister about going after some of that money. Might be more beneficial.
That's a problem.
Okay, my concern is, well, biggest, most obvious concern is guess where the buses go. Straight through us, unless they're going on a northern route, right? And I looked at the Minister of Natural Gas Development and responsible for housing, but that's basically housing. That's not shipping, because that's what this is. Like it's shipping, and if there was supposed to be previous notice so that the people could have the support services they required, and that notice was given after the bus had left. One of the individuals had a medical condition and there was no support of any kind. So if I would think if there was somebody in BC that would have a better life in Saskatchewan because of family, because of a job offering there, because of support services, and it was coordinated, that would make sense. But just putting people on buses to send them somewhere else because they couldn't house them in their shelter. So.
Again, I'm just looking at staff's recommendations here, and I'm wondering, how does this idea fit in with the strategic priorities of council?
saying that bus stops and Grand Forks and they all jump off?
Well, that's a concern. Right? If you're, it's just shipping people, and they're saying that they have, they shouldn't be discriminated against if they're lower income, and yet they're just putting them on buses. And that's their policy. My request would be that our province and the other 3 provinces all work together. And when it comes to strategic priorities for the city of Grand Forks, we do have one which has to do with homelessness. And we can't just say, well, we're going to take care of just this homeless, but not this homeless. Right? So it has to do with the province of British Columbia.
Councillor Ross.
I sort of feel sorry for these people that are just put on a bus and sent to, the other side of the country and get off and are, basically, still homeless. I think it's really an issue around human rights abuses here. I think it'd be more, if it's something that we're really concerned about, and if we want to gauge the concern from other municipalities, it can go forward at the UBCM as an emergency resolution. It is timely, it's happening now, potentially it's on other people's radar. So if it is a real concern to Councillor Krog, and if we want to build momentum within the province across other jurisdictions, I would suggest, because it is a human rights issue, it's a safety issue, it's a human health issue, it's certainly a safety issue for women, that it could potentially come forward as an emergency resolution. So it would qualify as an emergency resolution, and perhaps Councillor Krog would like to have some help writing a resolution of that nature that would get to the floor of the UBCM, and then it will get some political leverage and energy behind it.
And possibly go on to a federal level.
And well, once it passes UBCM, it gives it more clout.
Exactly, because if it is other provinces, then it should become federal.
Yeah.
In any event.
That was how I would suggest we deal with it.
Councillor Butler, I'm going to have to deny you that right, because you've already spoken twice to the same subject.
And so is Councillor Krog, but I'll give you one more crack at it, so you're 3-3.
I'm done.
You're still. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CAO, I'm wondering what the deadline is for getting our submissions in for these interviews. I hear that council has some great ideas. I also have one that I'd like to put forward. Also regarding the motion that I brought forward at the AKBLG that's been passed to the UBCM, I would like to speak with Christy Clark about her plans for privatization of water in the province of BC, considering, as Councillor Ross had mentioned earlier, privatization seems to be a mandate of this government, and it hasn't been addressed whatsoever by them in any of their publications that I've seen. And since council has some great ideas to bring forward, and staff also has some great ideas that they've brought forward, I was wondering if we could make a list of them and then bring it back at a further meeting with some more information on each topic for council to make that decision. I know we discussed the Slag taxation with the Premier last year, so I'm not sure, again, why we would need to be doing that. And with the asset management, what are we trying to accomplish there? I didn't see any details here about the accomplishments that we wanted to achieve by these meetings with these individual items. So again, I guess my question would just be, what's the time that this has to be, a decision has to be made on it, and is it possible for council to put forward some of our own suggestions to decide on?
Obviously.
To the CAO.
If you'd like to deal with council first, I can, it's your prerogative. If you'd like to
Just
deal with
I can end my part here is, if that's where it would best fit as an emergency resolution, then I will look at that. I'll maybe even talk to Vancouver to see if they're doing anything about it. I believe Councillor Butler's motion is going to the UBCM. So it's already done, right? So we don't need to talk to the Premier, because the province or the municipalities and other local government is talking on the floor about it. Right, so that part's done, and then I would just take my concerns and see where it goes.
Councillor Hammett's.
Councillor Hammond, you have...
Well, I was just going to comment on Councillor Crog's motion that, well,
My idea.
your idea,
Yeah.
and Councillor Ross's affirmation of that people can be given bus tickets, but they willingly get on those buses.
There's mental health
But
issues,
this is what I'm going to say. If there's a mental health issue, then there's definite serious abuse. And the mental health issue needs to be addressed and dealt with. It's not a matter of giving out bus tickets. It's a matter of abusing, not having the proper services for mental health.
So it should be clear.
So at this point in time, I'm going to
Yeah.
call the question. All in favor?
What was the
Could
question?
I need to address something first, if I could. So, Mr. Mayor, we have these lists, and Councillor Butler asked the question about providing and when the deadline is. The drop dead deadline is August 12th. There will be a limited amount of staff being on holidays. I want to talk about each of these documents here. Is asset management, meeting with the Minister of Community Sport and Cultural Development. Do we want to see this as a requirement in the community charter? Do we want council to consider talking to the minister to make this a requirement so it'll protect the integrity of infrastructure in our community and not see funding be taken away into other streams and taken away from the integral components of the community? So that was the intention of this, to ask council if they want to ask the minister around this. The code of conduct policy, talking to the minister in relation to this with the other communities, because there's a lot of discussion right now in local government. There's a big movement with many councils on an integrity commissioner. Mr. Mayor, you've talked to many mayors about that. But talking to the minister about that, and maybe even the premier, around the code of conduct expectation in the charter, along with the integrity commissioner within local government, to ensure there is a process for handling specific situations, that the integrity commissioner would be brought in on how that would look. So right now on this one, Mr. Mayor, there's quite a bit of movement all throughout BC on this code of conduct and the integrity commissioner. The Granby River mining slag pile, I've emailed the lawyer on this for Granby mining, and to ask them about the position of the taxation. As we remember, the Granby mining was being taxed as a mineral versus a quarry tax, and the Premier committed to doing something on that. We don't have any feedback on that at this point. We know that there were some conversations, but we'd like to get back and potentially touch base with the Premier on that. And if we hear that there's been some good movement on that, at least to say thank you for that, because that did save the community about $9.7 million a year in economic injection into our community. So it's a huge undertaking there. The homelessness and housing, we've reached out to the folks at Beth's in respect to the project that they're working on for the transitional housing. We're hoping to get some more feedback on them too, because during our meetings for the transitional housing, we talked about potentially going forward with some support for their project to help see if we can get the minister to help spur that on should they need it. We don't have any feedback from them at this time. If there was any other requests of council, should they not want to do these things, but we should be making a decision tonight on where we want to go. We've had a lot of discussions on this, but as we prepare for these meetings and prepare the papers to go into this, it's important that we get this completed now. Councillor Butler raised the point, is there anything else that they would like to talk to council about? We've kept this in line with the business of the city so far. We haven't gone into any other resolutions that we're going to AKBLG or that are going to be on the floor at UBCM. So again, Mr. Mayor, this is just before council. The natural capital asset can be part of this conversation as well with the minister to see if there's going to be any funding for that should council want to proceed on. Let them know about the partnership that we're having with our regional partners with the Regional District Area D. It'd be a good opportunity for the minister and the staff to develop a keen understanding and awareness of what we're doing. So when the grant criteria is brought forward, again, it's just to make them aware of exactly where we are. So this is council's opportunity to let them know that you have a bus, that you're driving it and you're moving it, and it's an opportunity to let them know that you're at the front of it. You're probably not going to get any specific requests answered by the minister, but it does allow their staff. Like Premier Clark last year did address council, and she did, within 30 days there was movement. and that was a positive for our community. Knowing that you have that relationship with the Premier is very important. I think Councillor Ross and the other councillors that were in that meeting understood the benefits of that meeting and saw that that there was movement. So again, to follow up on those things, just one meeting might not accomplish what we want to accomplish there. So again, Mr. Mayor, if we can get some direction tonight, it would be very good for staff, because then we can prepare these, get ourselves set up, and then council will have their agenda set for the Western meeting.
Councillor Hammond.
Just a couple things. On the asset management, isn't that what we talked to Peter Fassbender about last year when we met with him? And so we're just going to go back again and talk about the same thing, or we're going back with our hat in our hand this time asking for money?
Well, Mr. Mayor, what do we go back to Mr. Fassbender and say, Mr. Fassbender, we have balanced our budget. We've funded our deficit. We're not depending on your grants, but we are at the front of this now. We've funded our deficit to 50% of the depreciation. Here's our 20-year capital plan. Again, just reminding him that we are at the front of this, that we've been leading the way in asset management, and it's just an opportunity to remind the minister, because the minister won't hear it unless he hears it from you. He'll hear potentially from his staff. He'll hear potentially there are things going on in BC, but when he hears from you folks, it's important. It's basically back to what's important to the community, and that is the strategic direction of council.
So based on that, I'm afraid that he might just turn around and say, well, you guys are in a good position. You don't need our money or our handout. The other thing is the Granby, the taxation. Yeah, I remember last year after we spoke with Premier Clark that about a month later you came back and said that there was good news that it had been reversed. So I'm just wondering, like, I thought the problem had been resolved. Was I wrong in thinking that?
No, Mr. Mayor, we had a letter in from the folks at Granby River Mining, the partners from California, that wrote a letter extending the thanks to council. There was movement on it, and it looked like it was going to be resolved, but it's gone pretty dormant over the last several months, as there's been nothing to report to council on that. So again, that we don't know exactly where that is. I sent out the email to their lawyer. I'm not sure if there is any feedback. I'm expecting to get something this week, I would say the latest, from the folks at Granby River Mining. But again, it's being proactive, because that is a huge impact to our community. Should we lose that, or should we see any changes to that process? So Councillor Hammond is correct that there was some correspondence that came back to council. There was a pretty good vibe when we left that meeting, with the Minister of Mines being present as well, with the Premier. So.
Yeah, they haven't followed up.
Councillor Thompson.
I thought that was one of our accomplishments.
Thank you. I think it's important that we keep our faces in the forefront with the Minister of Community, Sport and Cultural Development and the Premier, so that they know who we are, and that we're not going to be going away and slinking away. Just because we met with them last year and felt that we had some good responses, we just want to remind them that we're still anticipating more from them. Also, just clarification, Mr. Mayor, through you to our CAO, the asset management, did I understand you to say that we want to encourage the Minister to include that in the charter?
It would be an interesting discussion for our council to potentially pursue, because again, it protects the revenue, the bylaws that you've set up now to put your revenues into, to protect and replace those assets as per your 20-year plan. It will see that if it is a requirement in the charter, it will not allow councils in the future to potentially come in and make a decision. They could take all of your reserve funding, all the hard work that this council's done and the previous council's done, and take that and then simply move it over into building dog houses in a park, for instance. Not that that's a bad thing, but it would, they would have the ability to do that if there was a 5-2 or a 4-3 decision of council. So again, it's protecting that. What's important when you go to these big tax increases and you do these things for a community, they can easily be adjusted by a specific project that doesn't meet one of your linear or non-linear assets as defined in your asset management plan. So that's a good conversation to have with the Minister, because again, councils don't want to see their hard work taken away from them in the future, because you've done this and you've done all the heavy lifting for your community now. this council's done an incredible amount of heavy lifting when it comes to the taxation increase in the reserve funding. So again, it would be awful to see that taken away from you in the future.
So we're allowed 4 appointments, but I see that 2 of them are with the Minister of Community Sport and Cultural. Would those be 2 separate times, or would they allow that to come under one meeting?
Mr. Mayor, we would ask for them to come under one meeting, but should they be dispersed into 2 separate meetings, we may find that this code of conduct here, the Minister and the Premier might want to be present for that meeting because of the Integrity Commissioner component to that. It'll be up to the Premier to determine and the provincial government to determine those meetings. Again, we just had these 4 because we felt as though they were the most relevant and they were something that you could go with and sink your teeth into with the provincial folks. Going outside of that, there's a lot of great things that the council's working on, but again, it comes back to where are you in those processes, and when is it time to be able to go meet with a higher level of government asking for this? Natural capital assets, code of conduct, gravity mining, big impact to the community, and the homelessness and housing issue right now with the transitional pieces. These are committees and things we've been working on for a long period of time.
I concur with Councillor Hammond wanting to meet with someone from Glenville. If it's not the minister, would it be advantageous to meet with their staff and ask them about following their own policies? Rather than, if we can't have another meeting and get to the minister.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, just a couple examples that we've done in the past. We've met with SPCA at UBCM. We've met with folks about the deer issue. We've met with, and I've just got word back from multiple communities that they are not seeking a joint meeting with the minister responsible on the deer issue. So most of the communities have kind of backed down from that now. We've met with IHA in the past to talk about any changes that may be affecting our hospital, our local hospital, or jobs related to that. You might want to meet with Minister Thompson I don't know why we would want to meet with him at this point, but there's been some talk whether it's about a community forest or something along those lines. So again, it's around these different areas that are topics of conversation, but you want to take a plan and things you have something concrete so you can drop it in front of them and say, here's what we've done, now it's time for you to move and get what is a provincial policy on this. Not with an idea or concept, it's about what we've completed.
I have an actual letter here from Minister Thompson assuring that regarding the wildlife habitat management British Columbia, he's responding on behalf of the government to the report Getting the Balance Right, Improving Wildlife Habitat in British Columbia. I agree that we need to enhance the way in which we manage for wildlife habitat and wildlife populations, especially in the interior. Your report provides me with advice that will help to guide future direction. So it concludes. Thank you for your report and the important contribution it will have in ensuring the ministry continues to advance work to appropriately manage wildlife habitat in British Columbia. And there's a whole bunch in the middle that I left out. But that just goes to show that I don't think they have, especially not in our area. And this letter was dated December 2015. So I also have a letter from 2011 from one of the ministers stating that they would have the Nature's Trust area fenced within the year. And that has never happened. So I'm wondering, can't we just pick up the phone and talk to Christy about the tax?
Oh, you recognize me first. Okay. Just one quick comment. The taxation of all the things that are on there, that's probably the biggest one. We're looking at, slag pile legacy and we need this purpose. That is a huge benefit to the city of Grand Forks, and I've sat through years of meetings with the people that are doing the work here and California and everything that gets us our slag revenue. And at one point they were looking at walking away because there's just too much. And you met last year with Premier Clark and Bill Bennett, I think, and Bennett's gone now. So he's got way more history. She's got this much history from a meeting. He had this much history.
But he's still a minister, isn't he? I know he's not running again, but is he not still?
I don't think so. I thought he ended being the minister, stepped down. I could be wrong, but that's, of all of them, that's the biggest one. So no phone calls.
Well, we've already talked to her, and we have had success.
Some
You
things.
want to weigh in on something?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to concur with Councillor Hammond. I mean, she's got some really good documentation there. I would like to see this brought forward to a meeting with the minister. It's been dragging on for a long time, and although it didn't receive support of the AKBLG, I think it's an important issue to our city that needs to be brought forward. Asset management, as Mr. Allen has stated, we focus on a lot here in Grand Forks, and the provincial government, Asset Management BC, they've got a really good handle on it already. I think they're aware that if they want to put it in the charter, they're leading out in it already. They could put it in the charter without the little city of Grand Forks suggesting it to them. I would like to see that one removed and have Councillor Hammett's suggestion put in place.
Yours.
Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that we have a conversation with Area D Director, because it is in his jurisdiction, that we, before we go and meet on governance in his area, that we at least have him support moving in that direction. I agree that actually it's not really important whether I agree or not. It's more about making sure that we do good governance in relation to this, because he is the elected official to look after that area.
That's right. That's better.
And the other point I wanted to make with the code of conduct, it wasn't something that was supported by all of council. It was not unanimous, and it hasn't stood the test of time yet. It's just been introduced. We don't have a procedures policy, we don't have the procedure in place on how to implement this policy yet. I saw a report somewhere from staff that would be coming forward, and I think that's really important that we've tested this out with the procedures in place of how to implement it before we go recommending it to anyone else. I mean, I had this incident this month where I found it difficult to do my job because those procedures weren't in place, and I think we need to get through those finer points first before we bring it forward at a provincial level. So I think maybe that could use a bit more work, and we could insert something else into that meeting spot. Perhaps the water privatization issue. It did receive top marks from the other communities at the AKBLG. It was put forward as a priority issue. It wasn't just passed with the regular motions, it was prioritized by the other councils in the AKBLG. So that it is of an importance to other communities as well.
And that's why it's on the floor of the UBCM. And that's a stronger voice than us, even with the minister.
Yeah, both.
And as far as the code of conduct issue, it's receiving great support from other municipalities, and now with this integrity commissioner issue coming up, I think it's going to be a huge issue across the province because of the monetary issues related to it. So I would disagree, and I think it should stay.
All right. Any other discussion? I'm going to call the question. All in favor of...
Do you have your list that you would like to see, or at least some direction? If you guys would like to take Councillor Hammett's suggestion in a conversation with our Director Russell, we could potentially ask him if he would like to pursue that with Council and to see if there's an appetite to meet with him. But I think that if Council likes this list, if Council doesn't like this list, at least we can get a resolution. We have the resolution to receive this, and then maybe a subsequent resolution directing staff to set up such and such meetings.
Councillor Crowe.
Yeah, just one thing, especially when dealing with other areas of local government, such as Area D, Area C, D, that type of thing. Keep in mind, those governing bodies have the same access to meet with the ministers. And there's been numerous times that the City of Grand Forks has gone into a meeting with different areas of the regional district. So it's their area. They set up the meeting with the minister. If they want backup and support, then we go. But it's their turf, pardon the pun. So Director Russell has the opportunity, and we could support him in his opportunity.
I agree with what you're saying, Councillor Cock. I remember, Mr. Mayor, that Councillor Hammett had a statement saying that they were obligated to consult with the City of Grand Forks.
I'm just opening up that document. In the management direction statement from the Ministry of Parks. I should just go and find that page.
Well, Councillor Hammett's looking that up. We did have a meeting, the Open Grasslands Committee, and Director Russell was in attendance, and he said something to the effect, I can't remember his exact words, but to have someone from Parks or Fenro come up and view and meet with them and discuss it kind of face to face. So I don't want to be putting the cart before the horse, although I think it's an extremely important issue. But without him and his thoughts being included in any issue that we want to take forward, and with regard to the open grasslands and their mandate.
What he wanted us to do was talk to the Ministry of Parks, and he was going to be 100% supportive if we talk to the Ministry of Parks, and I think this is an opportunity where we review this. So in section 6 of this management plan, relationship with local government, ongoing consultation with the City of Grand Forks is required to ensure local community needs are considered and where appropriate addressed within the management of Gilpin Grasslands Provincial Park. It doesn't say anything about the regional district, it talks about the City of Grand Forks. Primary role of Gilpin Grasslands Provincial Park is to protect a remnant grassland ecosystem and an uncommon riparian area along the Kettle River. The park provides essential wildlife habitat for a variety of provincially designated red and blue listed species, including bighorn sheep. Together with neighboring Bothman's Oxbow Provincial Park, which retains an important wetland and natural river frontage, Gilpin Grassland serves as an important ecological benchmark in an era of climate change and intensified adjacent land use activity and development. The secondary role of the park is to maintain low-impact, compatible recreation and interpretation opportunities within a scenic area of the Kettle River Valley. The park also contains significant heritage qualities, increasing the cultural value of the area to First Nations, the local community, and visitors.
But the majority of that is within Area D.
Yeah, so their strategy is to work with Ministry of Forests to ensure existing land use plan integrates with park management and complements park values. So it's just, I mean, it's up to council. I just think that anything that the government does in far as purchasing property to protect, for the purpose of protecting, they should be doing just that. Whether we can talk to staff at the Ministry of Parks or the staff at Minflow, and just bring it back to their attention again.
Councillor Ross.
Yeah, we have quite a big agenda yet, and I know we need to move on. I'd just like to say that statistically, BC underfunds its provincial parks less than any other province in this country right now, and that's shocking. That's a shocking statistic. On average, for 12 parks, there's only one ranger. So I think this is a bigger problem. This is a systemic problem for the province. And yeah, Gippsland grassland is a huge issue, but this is much, much bigger
Exactly.
than this little park here in our region. And so I think we need, if we're going to unpack that,
Yeah.
we got to unpack the entire suitcase and talk about what the focus, I mean, we've had the grizzly bear hunt, and there's been a lot of protests against that. There was a lot of protests against Site C Dam, and it went ahead come hell or high water. You know, there's been other environmental things that people have been trying to push with this government, and it's just it's underfunding at our parks, and they're not really interested. So I think these are important meetings. I would prefer to do, I think it's more politically strategic to do, to see what, I'd like to see what resolutions are going to come to the floor that speak about BC parks. And that's an opportunity for us to go to the mic to speak about our experience here and to rally support for any resolution that comes to the floor at UBCM to start funding and protecting the parks that we already have in this province. Because honestly, Councillor Butler, I think this is a much more systemic problem that we have in this province. Councillor Hammond.
Looking at me.
Yeah. So,
Well, that's why I didn't pass that AKBLG, because they thought it was too specific
Yeah, it
to our
is.
location.
Yeah.
And so I reworded the resolution to, for the government to look after all provincial parks, because I'm sure it has the same strategic management direction in its policies with all the other communities that it has provincial parks in. And if they're not looking after us, they're probably not looking after the others as well. So, you know, just to bring it forward as a bigger entity than just our local. But I had to use the Gilpin grasslands as an example of what they're not doing.
they would have a hell of a lot more clout if we had it.
You could set up a meeting with the park staff to get a better understanding of this and develop an open dialogue to then understand maybe what Councillor Ross is talking about going, but at least from the city's perspective, we can understand the nature of the concerns. I mean, because Councillor Hammond is pointing out some concerns that are not being represented in their statements that they've made, and they've made some commitments and some letters. We can bring forward those letters and talk to the provincial staff. But it would allow us at least that. At least the segue into that to determine where we're going to go, because the staff may be able to provide a little bit more direction to our community as well.
As long as it doesn't fall off the radar and we can still move in that direction somehow.
So I'm going to call the question now in regards to the four topics.
Okay, but can we add to that?
We have four.
We have four.
Four slots.
Okay, what if we want to meet with the Ministry of Minerals staff relative to parks? Do we need to include that?
No.
Okay.
I'd just like to have that included, that with this and along with the staff meeting with their staff.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Okay, so all in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? Councillor Butler? The motion is carried.
Well, it's some serious issues to...
All right.
I'll give it back if you need it.
All right. Our fire chief, subject matter, protective services, fire service operations level policy 901. Recommendation is council adopts the policy number 901, fire service operations level. May I have a vote on that, please? Councillor Butler, Councillor Ross. Discussion. All in favor? So carried. Manager of Development and Engineering Services. The subject matter, Slag Remediation Fund.
Yes.
No. E. Where's E?
We haven't done... We're at C.
Where's C?
You're the wrong side.
Oh, I looked at fire chief. Oh, wait a minute. Where am I at? Oh, I'm at the committee of the whole. Never mind. I'm like, wait a minute. We missed E.
8 hours worth.
Well, this one's longer.
Recommendation council establishes a Slag Remediation Fund in the name of the city and held in trust for the benefit of the city and Granby River Mining Company Incorporated. Authorize signatories on the fund to be the Chief Administrative Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Corporate Officer, and the Mayor.
And I think we're going to add a member of council.
And a member of council. I think that was already put in.
So if we could have staff address that, we looked into that today.
Okay. Go ahead, please, Manager.
Hi, I spoke to council, or sorry, I spoke to finance after that, and this is not a dispensing fund, is my understanding, and anything under a threshold of $25,000 is electronic signature, so it wouldn't put, I think the concern was that you'd be put on the spot, and it wouldn't have a designate, but that wouldn't be an issue in the situation.
So all in favor? Anyone opposed?
We didn't have a mover and seconder.
Thought we did.
No, it wasn't moved. Was it?
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hammond. Now we'll do it again. Discussion. All in favor? Fine. So carried. Yeah, too long on you. Okay. Requests arising from correspondence. There's nothing. So now we're moving on to the information items. From the Manager of Development and Engineering Services, the subject matter is a memo regarding the Grand Forks Slag Pile Mineral Reserve, and the recommendation is that Council receives a memo from the Manager of Development and Engineering Services regarding the Grand Forks Slag Pile Mineral Reserve for information. May I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Hammond, seconder, Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. Information items from Nathan Vogel. The subject matter is tourism idea of downtown street pianos. Recommendation. Council received a correspondence from Nathan Vogel regarding a tourism idea of downtown street pianos for discussion. May I have a mover? Councillor Butler. Seconder, Councillor Thompson. Discussion, Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a great idea. It's being done in Kelowna, and I was just in Kelowna, and friends there told me that it's extremely popular, that it's added a lot to the ambiance of their town. And I'm just wondering if council would want to get involved with this somehow. I think it's a great opportunity.
Councillor Tripp.
Yeah, I think I saw a piece in the news about this somewhere down in the Lower Mainland where this is happening, and I think it's a very popular thing. I just thought it would be good to maybe coordinate this with the Downtown Businessmen's Association, right? Whatever they're calling that. They changed the name.
DBA, the Downtown Business Association.
And also, you know, whatever other marketing ideas they have, then they could work this in with it possibly and come up with a plan.
You'd only need one, you know, because you could hear it all over town.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
No.
Well, it's received for discussion and information, and then we forget about it. So I'm just wondering, is there any action that council wants to take on it? Do we want to do this?
Councillor Hammond and Councillor Ross.
I can take this letter, extract this letter and put it into the DBA. There's a meeting on Wednesday and bring it up as a line item.
Yeah, I think it should be, because this DBA is not
They
operating
report to
under
the
the
chamber.
wings of the chamber.
Yeah,
So
under
I
the
think
umbrella of the chamber, but they're going to be in it. They're looking to break away as a separate
Yeah, but at
entity
this time
from
they're not
BIA.
breaking away yet, so I think
Right.
the relevant action would be to present it to the chamber.
Well, no, I think if I give it to them and just show them Nathan's letter, they can present it to the chamber if they decide that they want to take action on it. If the Downtown Business Association wants to act on it and they want anything to happen, they can present to the chamber and go back to them with their request.
Councillor Ross.
I think that this is a great idea, and I would suggest that the our council could endorse this idea, but I don't think it's something that we want to be responsible, especially covering them and locking them, like it says, locked by the city at night.
Yeah.
Maybe, Nathan and some of his musician friends can start something called the Piano Gang or something like that, where they roll up the pianos and citizens in the community, they're in charge of them. But, I would endorse the idea, but I don't think it's something the city wants to take responsibility for or put another job on our public works officers.
Exactly.
Or they could present themselves as a delegation, which is another option. But again, we don't want to embark on the liabilities involved.
Yeah, but I think it's a fun idea.
Yeah, it's a fun idea. Councillor Butler?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CAO, I'm just wondering if the city is okay with somebody putting a piano there. If somebody were to decide to do this, what type of clearance would they need from the city? What type of permission would they need from the city? How would they present it? So I'm sure that Nathan's probably going to watch and want to know what his process would be.
So, Mr. Mayor, if we had an answer from the chamber folks and the business owners, they more likely the piano would be either chained to a tree or something along those lines. We'd have to give permission for that. We would just want to be diligent in where it was placed and the exposure to risk. But again, I think it's a relatively benign type of situation. I think we're going to get people complaining about the noise, the times that they can be operated in, and the effects that they would have on businesses. I think that some businesses would embrace it, and I would think that some might not embrace it. I don't know, without getting any feedback from the chamber folks, but I think the overall piece from there, from a risk perspective, is without checking with our Municipal Insurance Association, at the top of it, it doesn't look like there's a lot of risk. It doesn't look like there's a lot of risk. The only thing I can see the risk of, I heard there was some damage done to the one in Kelowna where there were some vandals that hit it. So again, I think that's going to be probably the bigger piece to it, is how long does it last, the piano being out there at night.
Or our noise fighting.
Yeah.
When it goes to the DBA, then maybe a suggestion that if a local business, where they decide they would like it, if there's a local business close enough that it can be rolled in at night and rolled out.
And the local business endorses it, they take the liability and the risk.
Well, not liability, because it would be on our street, it would be covered on our line.
Yeah, but so the business takes that risk, not the city, or the piano rolls into
On
somebody's car.
Joker's patio is where it should go.
They wanted gyro park and city park.
I think that's better.
Anyway,
Yeah, okay.
you received it, and we discussed it.
We haven't voted it.
No, I know. So, all in favor? So carried. Our next item, Royal Canadian Legion Branch 59. The subject matter is request for letter of support for grant application to replace the roof on the building. The recommendation is council received a request from the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 59 for a letter of support regarding a grant application to replace the roof on the building for decision. May I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Ross, seconder, Councillor Thompson. Discussion, Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'd definitely like to offer our support to a community group wanting to apply for this grant, but I'm just wondering if there's other community groups applying for the same grant. Are we showing favoritism, and can we support all of them or none of them?
To our CEO, Mr. Allen.
Mr. Mayor, in our grant and aid policy, it allows council to, or actually council delegated that basically the support, and we'll write a letter of support, and that letter of support will go out to multiple people applying for it, and the grant people can choose who's the key person. We want to be able to, I think council's intention on that policy was to support everybody and let the providers of the funding make the decision.
So it could be worded in such a way that there's no specific.
No, it'll just be the city, if these people are asking for that, they'll get the letter of support asking the city of Grand Forks to provide a letter of support.
So does the resolution,
It just,
was it just to receive for discussion, or, and then we'll make another resolution to?
We already take it in the policy, in council's policy, in the grant and aid policy, so we don't need a resolution for council for support. We can provide the letter of support.
exactly. So So, all in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. The next item is the requesting permission for a special occasion liquor license on Friday, August the 5th and Saturday, August the 6th at James Donaldson Park for the Cannafest event. And the recommendation is that council approves the issuing of a special occasion liquor license to Chuck Barbioff for the Cannafest event on August 5th and 6th, 2016 at James Donaldson Park, subject to obtaining third-party alcohol liability insurance, naming the City of Grand Forks as an additional insured on the policy. All Cannafest event liquor providers to hold a serving it right license certificate and ICBC drinking and driving warning posters to be displayed. May I have a move around that, please?
I can't find that.
I can't work.
My next item is 10E, and it's from Ron Walker, the fellow who was burnt out of his house.
That's both. It's D. 10D.
There's no background on
Yeah,
it.
you have
There's no background, it's just on the agenda.
Sure, I can put it up.
Oh, just to the
Just on the
agenda.
agenda.
There was no, it was a verbal request
Yeah.
from Mr. Barbea, and we just included it in the agenda.
So we have a mover. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Ross. Unless there's any discussion, all in favor? So carried. For manager of building inspection and bylaw services, the subject matter is a letter regarding motorhome parking on property that has recently sustained fire damage at 7645 McCallum Drive during home reconstruction. The recommendation is council receives for information the letter from the manager of building inspection and bylaw services regarding the motorhome parking on property that has recently sustained fire damage at 7645 McCallum Drive during home reconstruction. May I have a motion? I move it. Councillor Butler, Councillor Tripp. Discussion. Councillor Hammond, Councillor Crowder.
Does this need an approval for a bylaw, a temporary use permit or something? Like, do we have a bylaw, because you can't live in a motorhome on your property right now?
It's because it's hooked up to sewer.
Right, so instead of receiving this for information, should we be passing a resolution?
No, not yet, Mr. Mayor. The rationale is, if council is going to approve this, we want to make sure that we're doing a little bit of research on this. We don't want to get into a situation where council's approved this and the neighbors are not happy with it. We want to set the number of motorhomes. There is insurance on this property, so they're covered off-site. I think this may be, and I don't even want to speculate, but I think that there's some, if council approves this, this could be 8 to 12 months, it could be 16 to 20 months. We don't know the extent of that. How many RVs would you have on the site? They're suggesting one at this point, but I would like to be clear and enter, if the community is going to agree to this, that under the zoning, that it is not turned into an ongoing process.
Jay, but we're not making a decision here.
No, you're just receiving this. We're working on it right now.
Exactly, so this is all the request from council is to receive this for information.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Is that all we're doing?
Yes, exactly. Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for those comments. I guess my concern is, because I know the lady who lives right next door, she's my hairdresser, and I think, it just really would be beneficial to go to the neighbors and make sure they're okay with this. Whatever else needs to be done, I mean, I certainly don't know the ins and outs of the legal side of it, but even if they're notified, how long it's going to potentially be, that kind of thing.
I'm sure Mr. Copan's taking care of all this stuff in the city. So. Councillor Crowder.
Yeah, the CIO expressed some of my concerns. The insurance adjuster quoted it's 8 to 12 months. No, it's going to go all the way through winter into next spring, and I know a few individuals that have had fires, and it's more like the 20 months. So if this was something, then would there be a time limit on it, right? So what do we do with it?
What can we not make the notice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just receive it for information. So I'm going to call it.
Question if I could.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think this has already been a situation, I guess, was already done where the family lived in a RV for some time while their home was being repaired.
Can I just respond? That RV was, as far as I know, not hooked up to sewer or water, right? So it's different. It was parked in, the one that they talked about on 22nd.
Yeah.
Right, it was parked, but it wasn't the same as this.
No, okay.
The situation is different,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
again, we're getting into the nuts and bolts of this. So.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call the question. All in favor to receive? Anyone opposed? So carried. Moving on to our bylaws section from the Manager of Development Engineering Services, subject matter to amend the current Sustainable Community Plan bylaw by adding a policy statement for temporary use permits. Recommendation is that Council gives final reading to the City of Grand Forks Sustainable Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 1919-A1 2016. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Hammond, Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. Our acting corporate officer, subject matter extension to the noise control bylaw number 1963 for the drive-in theater event series. Recommendation, council determines to approve the request to extend the noise control bylaw number 1963 to 12:30 a.m. on July 23rd, 30th, and August 6, 13, 20, and 27, 2016, respectively, for the drive-in theater event series. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Hammond, Councillor Butler. Councillor Hammond?
Just a question. Since this land, I believe, is zoned residential, does it require a temporary use permit to have this event on this land?
I don't believe it's zoned
Sewer manager.
residential.
It's zoned community use.
Oh, thank you.
And the noise is inside the cars, except for the kids running.
Running around, yeah.
Yeah.
I heard them from my house.
Councillor Tripp?
I drove to watch the movie from my house.
Well, it seems as Councillor Crop was there. I just wondered what his assessment would be of, I mean, was there any excessive noise or anything like that? Did it go really late or?
No, there was, the sound comes through the car speakers if your windows are down and you did crank it, because you could actually hear the movie if you were outside your car, but not anything like that. I hear more from the BMX than I would from something like this. And then they had a place for people to sit on blankets and kids. The biggest noise was the kids squealing as the sprinklers hit them. It was quite entertaining.
And it's not even, there's not a lot of houses around there.
Yeah, it's actually kind of neat.
The baseball girls make more noise probably.
Yeah.
So all in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. Our Chief Financial Officer, subject matter 2016-2020 Financial Plan Bylaw Amendment Number 1. Recommendation is council gives final reading to the 2016-2020 Financial Plan Bylaw 2021 Amendment Number 1. May I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Thompson. A seconder. Councillor Ross. Councillor Butler.
Yeah, speaking against the motion, we had a motion from Councillor Thompson tonight to look into the repaving of 22nd Street, which seems like a very valid project in my mind. There's a couple of things on this budget that I'm really not in support of. One being $50,000 for the Whispers of Hope building, and also the electrical substation engineering study. From what was brought forward by Alex Love when he presented here, I didn't see that as a strong project that I was interested in supporting, so I will have to vote against this.
Thank you. Councillor Hammond.
I just have to say that, number 4 on the list and I know we've discussed it before because I raised it at the last meeting when it came up, the $50,000 for the roof repair on Whispers of Hope. And was told that just because it was here doesn't mean that the work is going to be done. So I just want to make sure that it doesn't just keep popping up in that order, because to me that is at the bottom of the list. We did have the sidewalk for Silver Kettle moved up the list a little bit, but I don't see that there.
It's not on there?
Number 7, very top. So Schedule C.
The Whispers of Hope will be coming before council in any event, should it?
GIS Phase 2.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she looks.
Councillor Hammond, are you done?
Yeah, okay.
Councillor Crog?
Yeah, it does say during the discussion of the above projects, it was agreed that the Whispers of Hope roof capital project would not be undertaken until council was further consulted. The sidewalk, people, not everybody understands how the 20-year works. Just because it's there doesn't mean it's going to be done. But some of the general public, they see it there and they're going, no, you promised us a new roof, or it's in your budget. So it can almost sometimes give a false, yeah.
If I could just add, Mr. Mayor, you look at this project here, it's a DCC project. It is Silver Kettle Sidewalk. It's funded through development cost charges. That's to review with council. You're also going to have land sales, which would be here as for the where the Tim Hortons is going. You may end up with you will end up with $240,000 that will go in to your land sale reserve, and you may reallocate that into build sidewalk with. So again, if you look at where the funding source is from, if we keep scrolling over here, I don't know, can you do that, Roxanne or Sarah? Or are we all the way over on this document? You'll see that surplus donations, DCC, debt, grants, gas tax, land sales, Slag, equipment, waste, electrical, and capital reserves would be the funding source. So a lot of times you'll see here the grant. A lot of these projects may be dependent on grants. So again, this one thing the council should be following in this respect is that piece there, because Councillor Krog is correct. Just because it's outlined in here, we might not necessarily be undertaking it unless we get the grant, for instance, or until council reviews the DCC bylaw. So.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Councillor Butler? Motion is carried. There are no late items, so now we move on to the questions from the public and the media. And again, may I caution everyone that the subject matter has to pertain to the items that are on this evening's agenda. So if anyone has any questions, please proceed.
I would just ask that whoever stole Councillor Hammett's microphone, give it back to her. I mean, you guys all in that corner, you're terrible. You don't use microphones. And it's a hum in the air conditioning, and now it's going to have a hard time anybody listening to you. So learn how to use your mics, you guys.
Sorry.
I thought I was loud.
I thought I was
Sorry.
loud too.
Yeah, with the hum, it gets lost, especially the mayor. Just a tongue-in-cheek suggestion about the homeless. If we could put a 0.1% tax on sales of places over $1 million in Vancouver, or Airbnb for that matter, we could buy houses in rural areas of Saskatchewan because they're really, really, really cheap. And just count the number of bedrooms and put a homeless person in each one, give them deeds, and send them out by bus. And then when they can't pay the taxes and they have to get welfare, Saskatchewan can take care of them. I mean, fair play to turnabout and all that.
And the bus goes both ways.
Well, not commodities.
Do we have any other questions? May I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Ross, Councillor Butler, all in favor?